Good morning, everybody. We're going to continue the week of reviews with our look at a documentary on the Motown backing band, the Funk Brothers, called Standing in the Shadows of Motown, which is a documentary that was released by Artisan Entertainment in 2002. And I said, and as I said, it is a documentary on the Funk Brothers, which is a collective of musicians that backed all the Motown stars, including the Temptations, the Four Tops, and Supremes, on their records from Motown's inception to around the 1970s when Motown moved to Los Angeles, California. Now, some of the Funk Brothers did follow Motown, but some didn't, and those that didn't went back to playing clubs as jazz musicians, which is how most of the Funk Brothers got their start um, in the late 50s, and some of them even got their start playing music behind strippers and exotic dancers. Now, this documentary was based on a book by an author whose name escapes me at the moment. But the impetus for the documentary was the fact that the author wanted to pay homage to the musicians that, by and large, none of the general public knew about. As a matter of fact, as evidence of this fact, there's a portion at the very beginning of the movie where some patrons are interviewed in a record store, and they're asked, "Do you know who played on the Motown records?" And all of them didn't. They either said the groups that sang on the records, or they just didn't flat out know. And so that was really the impetus for the documentary, and I love it. I just love it. And some of the Funk Brothers that are touched upon in this documentary include Earl Van Dyke, one of the keyboard players, who died in 1992, James Jamerson, the monumentally talented bass player who died in 1983. As a matter of fact, he passed away 2 weeks later after the airing of Motown 25, for which he scalped the ticket and sneaked into the balcony to watch the show. And Benny Benjamin, one of the drummers who passed away in 1969, and many, many others. And along with the interview footage and some of the archival footage and stuff, the documentary also contains a concert where the surviving members of the Funk Brothers back musicians like Ben Harper, Joan Osborne, Bootsy Collins, Chaka Khan, and others while they sing Motown songs. And a lot of these musicians, with the exception of Bootsy Collins, Joan Osborne, Chaka Khan, and Ben Harper, I didn't know. But the fellow that sings "Reach Out, I'll Be There" is very good. I mean, I was so surprised. I mean, he nailed Levi's part on reach out. I mean, it was tremendous, and he also uh, sings "Shotgun" um, as well by Junior Walker and the All Stars, and he nails that too. Um, but so couched within the documentary is a concert aspect as well. And as I said, when Motown moved to Los Angeles in 1970, some of the Funk Brothers followed and played on, and some of them didn't. And those who didn't, um, went back to playing in jazz clubs as jazz musicians. And what's so cool about this documentary is that some of the interviews are shot in the actual jazz clubs where these musicians would perform, and so it's kind of nice to see where the Funk Brothers got their start. One of the funniest stories in the documentary is about James Jamerson. One time, the Funk Brothers were coming back from a show, and it was late at night, and it was cold and snowy, and James had a jar of pickled pig's feet, and he started to unscrew the lid and eat the pig's feet, and they threw him out the car, and they threatened to run him over, but eventually they let him back in the car. And to help tell James's story, the producers of the movie enlisted James Jamerson's kids, his daughter and his son, James Jamerson Jr., and who is a bass player in his own right. And they also, the Funk Brothers, without telling Motown, because I guess they could get in trouble for that, would do what's called moonlighting and do sessions with other artists not on Motown, like the Capitals. Cool Jerk was an example, which is featured in the concert portion of the documentary. And by the way, that the Cool Jerk is sung by Bootsy Collins, who did a tremendous job of it. And the other song that he sings is one of my favorite Motown songs. Actually, it's a song that I didn't know was on Motown until years ago, called "Do You Love Me" by the Contours, and he does a tremendous job of that. And there is a soundtrack which I'm going to show a picture of in the video, and there were several versions of this soundtrack released, which you can read about in the Wikipedia article. And also, one more thing I want to point out, a couple years ago, in 2010, the surviving Funk Brothers, Bob Babbitt among them, recorded an album called "Going Back" with Phil Collins, which we will be talking about when we talk about the Going Back live DVD that I have. And also, Bob Babbitt has played on Hanson's Shout It Out album, which we will be talking about when we review Hanson's Shout It Out album. And so I hope you enjoy this.